Hey everybody, thank you for joining me today. My name is Aaron Schey. Welcome to Habitat Now, where we are going to go over the upcoming MasterWorks auction. It was a labor of love putting this auction together, and it's a lot of fun to see these historic works become available to those who are trying to find pieces or something catches your eye. And we continue to do these. And if you have a collection or artwork you're thinking of offering, feel free to contact me at the gallery. I'm really quick at getting back to responding with ideas and pricing, all that stuff. But um, I will throw it to Ferd real quick because he wanted to talk a little bit about Jim and Daisy Fitzgerald, who were early members of the Habitat family and are selling some work in this collection. Ferd, feel free to take it away.
Yeah, I wanted to mention Daisy worked for the gallery for a number of years and had a really wonderful, very sensitive eye to what was happening with artwork. So consequently, in the 70s, early 80s, she put together an amazing collection, really amazing. And you'll see most of it in this auction. But I wanted to point that out because it's like in the Guggenheim, where I had just mentioned that you have the early examples of contemporary art. This is the very early examples of when the artist started maturing and developing their concepts. So enjoy.
Thank you, Ferd. Okay, we'll go through a little housekeeping real quick about the upcoming events. And you should be able to see my screen right now of our little logo here. So for those of you who sign up for these Zooms every week and get it via email, sign up for our newsletter if you don't. But on our website, there's a little hamburger here. You click this and click the Zoom button, and they're always posted on our website as soon as I usually get them done on a Tuesday or Wednesday. So you can't find it, you want to get a hold of me, or you can't get a hold of me quick enough, just go right there and sign up. Our upcoming exhibition with the International coming to a close at the end of this month is Dimitra Thanopoulos and Dean Benson. They have a show called Currents of Uncertainty, which is their collaboration work. They're going to be able to come and create an incredible experience with their works flowing through the very first gallery in the gallery and maybe beyond. So put that on your schedule, which is November 2nd, which is a Saturday. We just got back from one trip. Ferdinand, the founder of the gallery, and Kathy Hampson just got back from a trip to Italy, and now they're going to Seattle and the upcoming glass tour. So much exciting news and experiences that you can be part of. So make sure you're on a mailing list to find out about the next one. These are incredible times, and someday I'll get a chance to go on one. So we've hammered out the dates for our Glass Coast weekend. It's earlier this year than usual, which is November 9th or January 9th to the 12th. We're changing the experience up. We're inviting artists. We're creating new experiences, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we love being in Florida around this time. So plan on being there. We're going to be hooking up with Barbara Bash again, who's a big supporter of the Ringling College of Art and Design. More details soon. So hope to see you there. So we're here. We're at the auction, and I'm joined today by the founder of the gallery, Ferdinand Hampson, my partner Corey Hampson, who's also here. To talk about this amazing collection that we put up at auction, which will be up on Friday, October 11th. We moved it from the 12th due to the Hebrew holidays. Made more sense to have it on Friday the 11th. So you can put your bids in now. If you have any questions, contact us. It's an impressive collection of work available at the highest bidder. So we'll get off on the first piece, which is artist Preston Singletary, who's very hot as of late, a Native American artist. He creates incredibly carved, blown work. Maybe you've seen it at different museums. He's created experiences as well. This is an early piece by the artist and priced because of it. A blown work in coma where two different colors are attached together hot in the vessel form. Wanted to put a fun piece at the beginning that anybody could acquire by a well-known artist. This is a great piece to start with. Fred Burkhale, he actually stopped by the gallery maybe early pandemic, and he has since passed away. And he dropped off his big, thick book of his career. It was great to see him. And he is a part of this is part of the Fitzgerald collection. So Ferd mentioned the collection. All the pieces from that collection are actually shipping from their estate in California. And we've worked with this family before back in 2020 where we sold some things. And they held back some things from their own personal collection. And now it's time for everything to go. So we work with a UPS store out there for shipping. We've worked with art handlers in the area, and it's a very simple process. And if should you win a piece from this collection, we'll definitely connect you with the right people to get it transported to you safe and sound.
These
Another
are those are all lamp work pieces. He was one of the first people to be involved in lamp work as an art form in the United States, and he was a historian on the subject. So sad to see him passing because he had a tremendous amount of knowledge.
right. It's kind of like the artist's artist. I've definitely heard of him my entire career. It was great to meet him in person. An early Jon Kuhn piece. Corey, do you want to take this one?
Uh, Hi.
Hey.
Yeah, this is a chemically treated piece by Jon Kuhn. This was a very early example of his work, and he's really ahead of his time. In fact, there was some great examples of his work in the 1979 exhibition Glass Now that Bill Warmis had curated. And it's really a phenomenal piece, but a phenomenal point where no other artist was working like this. John has been like an innovative artist. So not only was this particular piece, this particular body of work, kind of revolutionary, so is the grinding and polishing of laminated glass with his newest body of work. So it really kind of a fun piece to have at the auction.
Yeah, it's great with the wall piece installed. It's probably the biggest one I've seen of the series at 29 inches wide. Peter Yonawine, someone I don't know much about. We've had some interest in this piece in the past auction, the laminated and polished glass. Quite a beautiful, substantial work at 17 inches wide, and hope it finds a home. An early piece by Mark Pizer, a really fun one I really enjoy. I think Ferd, you sold this originally, correct?
Yes, it did. Yeah, and it emblazoned in my memory because, as so many of these pieces from that collection, they're just so significant that I'll never forget them.
It's great. I'll show you
Did
something
you?
too. On,
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
our,
show it
on
around.
our
Yeah,
MasterWorks site, when you registered or want to look at the site, you can actually see 360 videos of many of the pieces, not all of them, that will give you a, oops, let me turn off that sound, will give you an idea of what the work looks like in the 360. So make sure you check out the MasterWorks site to see all sides of many of the pieces, or alternate pictures at least of most of them, as it really adds to the overall experience and will help you really decide if you really want the piece or not. So please make sure to check out our MasterWorks site. Close this down if I can do it. I guess I can just go like this. All right, cool. Another Mark Pizer. It's fun to have Mark Pizer back to back because he was such an amazing creator and scientist. Different styles of work. This is from his Staircase series, optical piece as you move around. One of the earliest to do that, in my professional opinion. And I find these pieces great examples, museum quality work or
yeah.
artworks. Corey, you want to take this one? You're on mute. Let's get you off mute. Hang on off mute if you want. One more time. There you go.
One of my favorite artists of all time, Bertil Vallien from Sweden. And I love this piece. And I'm going to tell you why, because he's most known for his boats. But also, when I visit Sweden, I usually fly into Copenhagen and I drive about 4 hours through the countryside. And it's a beautiful drive, but you look to the left, you look to the right, and occasionally you'll see one of these red barns or red houses, and they're riddled throughout Denmark and Sweden. And if you look at this boat, it's a capsized, upside down boat with a little red house in the middle. So I absolutely love this piece. I love this artist, and good luck to the bidder.
Yeah, it's an unusual piece, but it is quite impressive, and there's hidden figures inside of it. And to sweeten this deal, we added a print by Bertil Vallien, which is quite large. It's 44 inches wide. This framed print of a boat by the artist. It was signed to somebody, I think it's probably on there at the time, but it's just something fun we came across and wanted to put it in with the piece. So you get two works for the price of one. John Lewis, another historic artist. Ferd, will you take this one?
Yeah, John Lewis was doing these moon bottles and moon vases at a time when everybody in California were being very successful by copying Tiffany. So most of the artists seem to be copying what had been done with glass before. John Lewis's idea was using space and the colors and the imagery that he would sometimes pull from his imagination, sometimes from reality, and make these pieces so innovative, uh, particularly at the time.
Thank you, Ferd. We have at least two of them in this auction. Might come across others, but a moon bud vase and a moon bowl.
Yeah.
A fun work by artist Doug Ederson. Someone I think is he still around for? I don't think he's still around anymore.
I don't know, he retired
Yeah.
and became a farmer, but he was one of the very first to use pot de verre,
Right.
particularly, I mean, in this country. And so he was like a phenomenon.
It's great. I've seen some of the work in the secondary market over the years. They're always very playful, and the colors are always so natural. This is the first deflated fish I've ever seen. So if you're a fisherman, this work might catch some eyes around your location, but it's an impressive work at 9.5 inches wide. So this is a fun one. I first thought this work was by artist John Miller, and I received a call actually yesterday from Richard Royal, who clarified this is actually a piece that's 10 years older than my guess, and is from his body of work that was done first. And the long story short, obviously John and Richard knew each other, and John asked Richard permission to use the form as well, which is why I had guessed it was wrong because it was before my time. Large work at 7 inches tall. Look at the beautiful colors in this ribcage vessel. He calls it his diamond cut series. And at 17 inches tall, it's probably one of my favorites. This Howard Ben tray. Corey, do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Howard had
Go ahead, Corey.
Howard had created these Howard Bentray almost like maquette sculptures originally for the Detroit Institute of Arts. And this is a two joined, and there are two renditions, one in the Shirley Glass collection and another one from Halamira Weiss collection in Detroit. And he absolutely loved this form, and he wanted to do something for the patrons at the Detroit Institute of Arts. So he had created this form for their patrons. And it's a really beautiful, simple, minimal piece. And I remember visiting his studio, and he had all these small maquettes behind him of all the pieces he made. And I said, I'd have collectors over. We'd be like, "Oh, can we get one of those?" And he'd be like, "Absolutely not," because he worked large scale, and these were these maquettes. So the fact that he created this he did it twice, one for the Detroit Institute of Arts and another one for the Palm Springs Museum. And these are like maquettes. So finally, he gave back to all those years of begging him if he could make a smaller piece. So kind of a really fun piece to have at the auction.
I love it too.
Yeah.
This is a very large Benjamin Moore, almost 30 inches wide. We've had these inner folder series pieces at auction before. We actually had one in our last auction that was blue, but it was not to this scale. This is definitely by far the largest one I've seen. It's beautiful in tone and color, and it's very substantial. And this is definitely a museum quality work. I'd say that a lot because we offer museum quality work here at Habatat. But it's fun to see work like this come in the secondary market that it really takes your experience and work you've seen to the next level. So there's two works by the late artist Michael Glancy in this collection. Both of them are from the collection in California, and they've been owned probably since they were brand new by this collection at Fitzgerald, and they are both impressive pieces.
Yes.
We actually have a lot of interest in both of these works. We don't see them come up very often at auction for some reason. My guess is they've now been gobbled up by museums. But they're both very impressive. This is a smaller one at 9 by 8 by 8 inches, but it has the full tone and depth of his larger work. And this might work for you scale-wise versus the other piece in the auction.
Part of the reason they're so scarce is that Michael never made very many pieces. I mean, he worked hard, but they're very complex. And one time I asked him, I said, Michael, is there any way you can make more work? I mean, he was so hot, everything sold. And he said, well, I make a lot of work right now. I said, well, how many do you make? And he said, well, I make 18, 20 pieces a year. And I didn't know that. That's a lot of pieces. So he said, yeah, The base is one and the vessel's two. So, in other words, he was making half that amount in the final sculptures.
That's funny. What a story. Corey and I had a chance to stop by his studio late in his career, and it was definitely an impressive place and seemed like the laboratory of a mad scientist. Artwork, drawings everywhere, mechanical machines that did who knows what, probably electroplating, but it was definitely one I'll never forget. An old historic Labino. How many of you know Dominic Labino was an early pioneer and scientist creating the technology in the glass and worked with Harvey Littleton. And it's so good to have pieces of his show up at auction to tell a little bit of the story of the original, pioneers in the glass art world. Most of the works that are in demand are the Emergent series, but they're priced accordingly. But it's always fun to see the wild and wacky other works that came out of his studio, which I think is still in operation today by his either his family or his estate. A fun work by Paul Manners. I've always seen these in the secondary market. They remind me of the era when Harvey Littleton was making work of hot sculpted glass and other artists were messing around. And Paul Manners is one that comes across my desk a lot, and they're priced really efficient and they have a great story and techniques of the past. And if you're looking for something that's impressive but not too expensive, Paul Manners is one you should have your eye on.
He went off to the Amazon while we were exhibiting him, and he never returned. So I've never heard from Paul Manor since then. He may have returned, but he never then pursued a career in working with glass.
Or maybe he befriended an alligator.
I know, I know.
The two became close. That's a good story. I didn't know that. David White. Corey, do you want to take this one?
I believe it's Mary White.
Mary
Am
White.
I
Oh,
wrong?
No, it's David White.
Oh, it's okay. Ferdinand, why don't you take this
yeah.
one?
Go
Yeah, he
That was
he
Mary
worked
White
with,
from California.
yeah, there is a Mary White. He worked with David Hutchhausen when David was teaching down south, and was making some interesting pieces. Although I never heard what occurred in his career, whether he continued to pursue art or not.
Okay. Good to know. Sorry
They,
putting you on the spot there, Corey. I had a feeling
no,
you.
they kind of reminds me of Joel Philip Meyer's work.
It
Right.
does.
Yeah, it has the same type of pickup on the pattern. They're really quite beautiful.
Yeah, there's two of them in auction. We have the darker one first, and later on there's a white piece we'll come across. And a work from by Elizabeth Mears, it's a flame work piece with different parts attached to it. We've had this piece for a while. It's from the collection of Cheryl Lappin and Harv Lappin. It's always fun to come across pieces in our vaults. It's great to come visit the gallery and see what's in our storage, which you make an appointment to come see us. And we found this and thought it would be fun to put in the auction. Whimsical, peaceful, and beautiful. So this is probably the largest Joel Philip Myers we've had to auction in the past. 15 by 16 inches, quite substantial. And it is a impressive work. Corey mentioned that the other work looks somewhat familiar to it. And there's some more pictures of this piece on our auction site to see. It's rather thin from the body of work, but it is quite beautiful and big.
It's very unusual because it's clear glass. And Joe Philip Myers made very, very few pieces that were clear glass with images on it.
I have another photo of it. I'll see if I can look it up real quick right here. You can kind of see the different beautiful, the clearness of the glass that Ferd's mentioning.
Yeah, it is a beautiful piece.
David Patchen. We had David at our recent international. He did sell rather well, and his scale has gotten smaller and more technical, but it's amazing to see these colorful works, and the light just pierces through this vessel and its tone. So I put some more pictures of that at 360. It does have some minor scratching on the base right here on both sides, but you can't really see it unless you're close up to it, but I want to mention it. And it is a wonderful example of this work. This is fun. Many of you have seen Ginny Ruffner's work over the years. I have not seen a Ginny lamp menorah before, and this came in earlier this summer. It came in safe, hand delivered, fully inspected, and it is wild. Hand painted, hot worked, lamp worked, and overall fun. So if you're ready to celebrate the upcoming Hanukkah holiday, this work is for you. Though we have our old friend Dale Chihuly in the auction. This is a 9-piece set of his Cobalt Seaform series with a red lip wrap. Multiple pieces. It came from a local collection, so it was hand carried in and inspected, which always helps out with these kind of auctions. Wonderful and impressive work by the artist. Chihuly does rather well at the auction, so it's always fun to have one of those mixed in. Sonia Blumenthal, this is a good one for you, Ferd.
Well, I don't know her very much, but I know she's a minimalist working in Seattle and has quite an audience for her work. We have never really exhibited her, but I'm not sure what collection this is from. But
it's a local collection, and we've done rather well at auction with her work in the past. So something I'm looking forward to finding a home.
Mm-hmm.
Two great Richard Ritter pieces are in this auction. We have a black form and a white form. Ferd, you want to take this one again?
Yeah, notice the date, 1976. Richard was experimenting with canes very, very early on. And this is an example which is quite beautiful because of that black background.
Yeah, and this is the white piece. This one's called Heart
Yeah.
Window Vessel, little Marini hearts that have been picked up in the design.
Yeah, again,
And
1976. Amazing.
both these have
So
had a lot of.
he was at the time working at the BBAC, not the BBAA, which is in Birmingham Bloomfield Art Center.
Yeah.
And until the place got set on fire, that's where he was working. And of course, he left and went to Penland and started his studio there. But yeah, these were definitely made in Detroit, which is kind of fun.
What caused the fire? You got me curious now.
Stuart Shulman, he would say.
Yeah.
No, they listen. It was the mid 70s. They were experimenting, and you know they figured out how to make a studio based on. They made it out of a mailbox originally. The kiln was out of a mailbox, a metal mailbox. I mean, we're talking like no glass. Had no idea. They wrote to Joe Philip Myers. They heard that they heard he worked at Blanco and he had access to glass. So they wrote him a letter and he drove a truck up and dropped off glass, for free. Just gave them these buckets of glass, tons and tons of glass. So like, how are we going to melt this down? And they read Labino's papers and figured out they could make a mailbox and melt glass out of this mailbox. And that was essentially, so yeah, of course they didn't know what they were doing, but they did create some beautiful things at that period of time in 1976.
Good story, Corey. Thank you. We have 3 works by the master Paul Stankard in this auction. All 3 are from the Annie and Michael Belkin collection, which we've been slowly trickling out over time. Michael had a personal relationship with Paul for years, getting his best pieces of the year sent to him via a stipend of money that Michael always provided to Paul, which made Paul very happy. So every piece you see, there's multiple pictures of this piece on the auction site, as well as the other ones, were hand chosen by Paul for Michael. And a lot of them were, experimental, where Paul was trying new things because Michael was always so excited to see what Paul was creating. And the pieces that they didn't donate were selling over time. So this is one of them, as well as we'll get to the other ones in a minute. This is a very interesting piece. Look at the size of this Joe Philip Myers, 12.75 inches. It's massive for this body of work. This work was actually featured in Life magazine back in, I think, the 80s when they did an article about glass, which I know we have somewhere in the gallery, but I can't find it.
We absolutely do have that article.
I know.
It has Christy Brinkley on the front of it. No, I remember it quite well. It's a very important historical, where glass was first mentioned. And this was it was amazing. So there's a picture of Chihuly, and this is the actual piece.
This is the actual piece that was featured.
Yep.
That's incredible.
So it's an important piece to have for any collection, definitely museum quality. And If we can find that Life magazine, we'll probably supply it with the
I have
buyer
I
as
have a
well.
copy. I have a
You have a
copy.
copy? Okay. Well, we won't
Yeah.
steal your
It's
copy.
mine though. It's
We can find
mine.
the gallery copy. I know Mary Schaffer was on that magazine too. There was a good collection of historic
Yeah,
artists.
Bill Morris.
Bill Morris, yeah. Great to hear these people are kicking today too. Another Joe Philip Myers. There's like 6 Joe Philip Myers in this auction, which is
Oh, this is Ferd's favorite series.
Yeah, this is a contiguous fragment series. Um, it's We had a show in 1979 of this series, and the thing that I realized about Joe Philip Myers' work was that he really carefully analyzed and made paintings on the sides of these vessels.
Mhm.
And at the time, many artists were working with colors and dripping them and squishing them onto the surfaces of glass. But uh, it was, and occasionally a great piece would come out of that way of working. But for me, art's always been about thinking about it first and making it second. And that's what these pieces are all about.
Thank you, Ferd. Another impressive work by our old friend Jack Schmidt from Ohio. I've always loved this body of work. It predates his newer series. Many of you have seen these freestanding forms. They almost look like Viking axes. But every now and then I walk into a collection and see one of these, I guess they'd be plate glass or cut glass sculptures, and they're always just so fun.
A quick story.
Sure.
In 1977, we had our National Glass Exhibition, which we now had for maybe 5, 6 years. And this piece was in that exhibition. And the rest of the exhibition were like blown bottles because people just didn't know how to work other ways in glass. No cast work, no slumped work, and no fused work. Just didn't have the technology. And Joel came in with this piece. And I mean, how absolutely extraordinary. It was just a beautiful sculpture. I've always, when I think of Jack Schmidt, I think of this piece because it's so, I feel, beautiful, well thought out.
And innovative for the time. That's great.
Yeah.
It's fun to see the stuff reappear in the market. Joe Philip Myers also worked on smaller scale. People collected his perfume bottles again from the same year, 1976, as the Ritters, showing the same kind of technique and a fun work by the artist. Tom McLachlan, I love seeing the work and he's done over the years, and he has since passed away. Always exploring these same kind of colorful designs, whether he's doing blown pieces or sculpture, and they're almost immediately recognizable. Robert Levine, this banana cup. We've sold a couple of these in the past at auction. They're always so fun to see, and they're usually priced really well. And they really stick out from the era from the late 70s. If you look at all the
Sure.
work, if you come across this is the work you'll remember versus a lot of other things that were around at the time. I think we sold maybe 4 of these since I've started at the gallery, and everyone's made unique. And then you think you've seen that one before, and you look up the old one, and it's not. It's definitely different.
Yeah. Different fruit, too.
Different fruit, right? Another Paul Stankard in the auction. This one, the Dragonfly Botanical. I love exploring these pieces, seeing what Paul was creating at the time. He must have had a lot of fun over his career, just creating life from glass and a torch. Then you flip these works over and you'll see hidden bees, or you'll see words hidden, or figures, and they're just treasures. So we have this one followed up with a more simple form. I have a Paul Stankard in my collection that's only sunflowers. And sometimes I really just enjoy some of the simple designs too, because there's so much depth to everything he creates that when you're looking at a piece with a little less going on, it's just as impressive as the works that have a lot. This is a very interesting piece by artist Toland Sand. When we picked this work up, it was signed Toland Peter Sand, which I guess he used to go by back in the day. This work is from 1992. Many of you are familiar with his work, and if you're not, he kind of works in cut and polished forms that are laminated together. This one incorporates mixed media. This is from a local collection we picked up here and had a chance to see it in person. And I was like, really? That Toland Sand? And lo and behold, it is. So at 19 inches tall, is a really large scale work from the era, and the collector actually owned 5 works by Toland, and this is the first one we're offering at auction. And yeah, a great work. You want to take this one first?
Yeah, this was from our first exhibition with Harvey Littleton, 1979. And of course, Daisy was right there to pick this piece up. A beautiful example, very, very early example of working with multiple layers and colors.
Yeah, and we have a lot of people asking about those smaller scale Harvey Littleton works. This is your opportunity to snatch one from the Fitzgerald collection. Dick Huss. We have, I think, 3 Dick Huss works also from the Fitzgerald collection. Impressive early vases by the artist. Look at the year on this one, 1972. And so, as you're thinking about the technology in glass, and you think about it today, this is all the way in 2024, and they're trying to develop the glass material that works together in different colors, that doesn't explode, that doesn't, crack as soon as you touch it. And these pieces are like incredible to know they've survived over the era, and they had the correct science in them and the pH balance or whatever to last this long. So it's fun to be able to look back where glass was coming from, as Ferd was talking about when everybody was doing blown glass. Other artists, most people were, and today to what's out there. It's amazing to experience the difference. This is something I've never seen before. This was a Ricky Bernstein vase, 1981. And when I was a kid, I'd go into the gallery over in, I guess it was in Northwestern Highway, and I'd see Ricky Bernstein's work on the wall, these giant cartoon characters. And they were dogs biting lunches, or the phone ringing off the hook, or, traveling somewhere. They were giant 80s style cartoons, and they were the best. They were just the best for a child to come in and see that. All the rest of glass was not entertaining, but these giant sculptures were. But obviously, Ricky had to start somewhere. You have something to say about this one, Ferd?
He had to start somewhere.
Right. He had to start somewhere. So an early vessel formed by the artist experimenting with colors, it shows where people start early. I've never had one at auction before. It's the first time I've ever seen one.
Yeah, very few were made as far as I know. And at that time, some of them were a little more literal. This one is more abstract, obviously.
Good to know. Amoruso. Corey, do you want to take this one? Are you around? Oh, your screen is still there or not? You are. Feel free to unmute yourself.
So this one, I was just at Glass Dress in Barango Gallery, and he had, maybe a dozen artists represented that have like really innovative ideas. A really impressive exhibit. And Amoruso was in that exhibit, and with large scale figures. And this one here obviously is 24 years old, but does show the talent that he has.
A lot of people acquire these works and make them smile, and they're very fun and colorful and peaceful.
Yeah.
Simple jewelry. Just great to know about that. Thanks for sharing. Moshe Bersucker, someone I don't know much about. I know that the artist has been at Corning and has been creating different bodies of work, and is still working today. This artwork came from the Lapin collection as well, and at 45 inches tall is quite substantial. So someone to keep your eye on, who's still working and made this incredibly tall floor vessel. Izumi, big fan of Izumi's work. Been showing Izumi for years. I remember a couple years ago, let's say probably 2021, I reached out to the artist for new work, and he informed me he's no longer making new work unless it is commissions. He's semi-retired. This is back in 2021. So the only way to get work nowadays is secondary market. And this work is beautiful. It's like a boat form. It's called Mirrored Lake. It has a small, maybe 3-inch scratch on the side of it that doesn't affect the appearance overall, but I want to make sure it's mentioned. And it can be mounted to the wall or left on the table, which I really like. If you had a long dining room table and put this in the middle, it has that appearance of a beautiful, stunning, impressive piece of art without the overbearance of a giant presence. And I love the work. Very Asian in appearance and historic. If you were to pick an artist off the bat from Japan, that would go to Yamano and Izumi. 2 different styles of work, just 2 important artists. Sidney Cash. We've sold these works at auction in the past. These are the trifold series. Maybe you can tell us about this, for you might know more than me.
Yeah, this is a very, very delicate work. It's a process of stopping the movement of the glass at the proper time where it stabilizes and becomes this like beautiful chalice. You see the wires on the top? Those were the wires that dictated the way the glass was going to melt. Just a beautiful, beautiful series in a lot of museums.
A lot of museums, I reinforce the delicateness of this work. It needs art handling to be transported from the home, from the estate in California, because if you ship something like this through a common carrier, you'll definitely not be happy. So keep that in mind when bidding. A lot of things are like that nowadays. So we've worked with some great art handlers and are always looking for more. I love this Robin Greavy. Look at all the
Oh,
detail in this form and figure of his early work from '92. And I believe your work in your house, Ferd, is around that era, isn't it?
well, we have, I believe, four
You have four.
works of hers, and we do have ones from this era. This is very memorable. She's done a couple of others where she's used this like what feels like a clay body in bricks. This is the first one that I had seen, and it really sticks in my memory. 38 inches high, really a beautiful piece.
Yeah, definitely a head turn. Robin is retired. She's no longer making work as far as I know. So a great opportunity to get a very curious and fun work by the artist. Flynn Lingard, this is someone I don't know much about. Can you help me out, Ferd?
Yeah, he's the one that was the impetus for starting the Ibbeldorf Museum in Denmark, and very active in that way, and very active in then procuring the collection, contacting all of his friends, which he had lots of, to donate pieces to the museum. So very important in that way. Very unusual to see one of his works in America. Most of the works sold in Europe.
It's great to know, Ferd. It's some other picture, maybe some other pictures of it. It may not be, but the ladders on there, you can say the vision of
Yeah,
reaching a next level, trying to be a little bit literal in an abstract piece. It is signed. I can see it right there. Another Dick Huss from the era, 1977. This goes to show, what I was talking about earlier, where a lot of the works that were in the gallery were blown objects, because that's what people had. That's the technology they could do at the time. Even they were also a little bit thicker than what we were used to, but that also leads to the longevity of these pieces. Having a little more umph on every level makes them last a little bit longer, or longer than the ones that didn't. This is a great piece. I love Brent Key Young's work. Many people have seen his newer lamp work sculpture. He makes giant ladders we have in the gallery, uh, or structures or orbs. And early on, he had this beautiful fossil series. And the interior colors are just as important as the exterior. And as you explore these pieces around, you see them in institutions and museums. I, I personally have gone rather fond of them.
yeah. That I could never figure out how he got these fossils in the piece, but what it is he makes it ahead of time, and it's clear glass, and then he embeds it into the piece, and you get that wonderful elusive image.
We should do a Zoom with him and have us give us all the secrets. He doesn't do this.
Yeah,
He
I
doesn't do this
know.
work anymore, so he might as well share the world, especially if you don't know. Another Joe Philip Myers, a wider piece at 23 and a quarter wide, the silver with the pickups to put the different layers of depth and color in them. It's always great to have a nice variety of work by Joel, and he's still, I think, not only one of the most important workers in the glass community from the era, from the time, but he's got a great body of work out there, and a lot of it is priced under the money. So if you're looking for a great piece to add to your collection, I always recommend Joe Philip Myers, even if you're starting out, because you can get a really substantial piece for a really great price. Another one, Joe Philip Myers. This one's called a cylinder vase, I believe. Lots of beautiful tones in this one, very uh, choral-esque, and I just love the work.
Yeah.
Robert Gardner, maybe you can help me out in this one, Ferd.
I Yeah. We exhibited him in a couple of our international exhibitions. Uh, the art critic one of the art critics in Detroit, this was her son-in-law, and that was a little awkward. But anyway, that beautiful mixed media piece.
Yeah, very substantial and an impressive work. We picked it up locally, hence it was sold in the area, and it's priced really well to find a home.
Mhm.
Clifford Rainey's work. Many of you know Clifford. He is out of California. He lost his home and his studio during a fire. Fires are flying through California, and luckily, we had a lot of his collection in our gallery, which saved many of his pieces. We have this one up for auction. I think it's a multi piece. Usually, it's like a torso that stacks together, and apparently something slides inside, giving you the small hint of gold. And I don't know what the title means. Something I'll have to look up and I have to find the dimensions in this piece, but it is a very substantial work by our friend Clifford Green. This is a great piece. I want to have a picture of the whole thing, and maybe I can pull it up afterwards. David Ricci, subtle humor, very fun. The UK artist is one of my favorites. He makes just work that makes you smile. And this one is called Sitting on a Fence 3, made in 2000. It came from a collection in Texas. These two figures sit on this giant metal and wood apparatus, and they're obviously having a very serious conversation. Maybe it's getting too serious. And let me see if I can pull up what the whole thing looks like so we can talk about it and show you guys. Let me go to the next page. And I don't think I did a video of this piece because there's so many photos of it. But look, let's skip out of it. Let me go to the whole piece. You can kind of see the whole figure on this giant base, which is signed on the bottom. So it has a real powerful presence. And I just thought this was just a wonderful work to include. But I took a few other photos, and you can see his signature. So it's something that if you like his work, which I really do, this would be the piece for you. 60 inches tall. Okay, so another Dick Huss piece, part of the Fitzgerald collection, showing off. This was called Brown Hearts. Let me see, literal brown hearts hidden around the vessel. Small 6 by 6 inch sculpture, but maybe that was big for the time. And it's a great example of Dick Huss's work. This is someone I don't know much about. His name is Richard Dugan, and he, I believe, was a local artist, and maybe Ferd knows something I don't know.
We exhibited his work once, I believe, in an international, and this piece obviously was acquired then. And I don't have too much.
Was he local? Was he local? You remember, or was he?
No, he wasn't local. No, no. It seemed like he came from possibly Rhode Island.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's a two-part piece that flows together.
Aaron, just give me the easy ones, would you?
Yeah, no problem. The two-part piece that fits together and creates this beautiful form, and it's priced well. It's called Red Wings. This is the placeholder in the auction because I might have to add a piece or two. So just ignore that as you're breezing through the auction. Wonderful work by our friend Martin Rousseau. We have some work in the gallery. It's just to die for, and it's great to have some of historic work in the auction. This gold treated top on this clear form, 9.5 inches tall in the gallery, and it's ready to be taken home. A fun one by our friend Martin Blank early on, 1994. Blown vessel form. This can stand straight up or tilted inside. I just happen to like it more on its side. And just shows an early talent of what Martin would later create with his humanoid forms. He'll be down with us in the Glass Coast weekend down in Sarasota this January, so you have a chance to meet him and see him. And you can acquire one of his pieces for a great price. This is a fun one. This one currently is at auction with a $2,000 reserve, and it's a 23-inch tall piece. And to incentivize bidding, we're going to drop it down to $1,000. This work is a massive work by the artist, very important, and we're eager to find a home for it because it's been at auction a couple times, and there's no better time now to find a very important work by artist Martin Blank called Reaching Nude, and it represents his technique and style, the humanoid form, and he still works in the style today.
It originally sold for $24,000.
There you go. This is the time to grab it. Don't wait. Fun work to have by Therman Statom. I have 3 kids in my house, and the only piece on display is the work by Therman Statom that we love and enjoy. Everything else I own is in storage. And it's fun to have these colorful ladders that Therman's well known for. Probably is one of his most well-known series. And they're always in demand. People love them. Sometimes they have bases, sometimes they don't. I think, Ferd, you have a piece sitting in your house, right?
Yeah, I do with a base. This one is an obvious earlier piece because the ladder is thinner, but he's put quite a bit of effort into putting a lot of objects on the ladder, so it's
Yeah.
pretty complex.
And Thurman is a big supporter in the art community and teacher, and we're honored to have this work. And look at this. Can you believe this? This is a full-size dining table, full size, 72 inches across, available in this auction that Thurman created via commission for the Fitzgeralds back in '95. They've enjoyed it for years. It's in excellent condition. They've always, put toppers on the table when they actually used it, which I suspect was not quite often, but I would for sure. And it's definitely something I've never seen before. And it's very unique to not only our auction, but any auction. And it's priced really well. There is some obviously logistics in getting it to your home, but this is probably one of the most substantial pieces by the artist in this style that I've ever seen. He's done large, unique houses. I guess you could move in one of those if you want, but this one you can actually eat on. And I think it's just remarkable. Here's the other David White that Corey Ferd was talking about. I used to work with David Hutchhausen. Corey mentioned similar to the style of Joe Philip Myers. Another impressive piece available, done in an impressive style too. So something fun to see and buy. Japanese artist. This came from a collection locally and has a lamp underneath it. You can see the green glass known for the Orient or the Asian style of creating, and the humanoid form, and it sits on this lamp that turns on. And this came into our collection a couple of years ago and has been sitting in our vault. I thought it would be fun to put at auction. Pino Cigaretto. This is a work that came from a client who was looking to sell a couple objects, and just a colorful toned vessel form done by the Italian master.
Yeah, Pino's arguably the best. He passed away, but the best glass handler in the world. He could make just about anything, and when people would do requests, and he would make 4 and 5 foot high sculptures, so complicated. Uh, so this is a interesting reminder of how good he is.
Thank you, Ferd. This is another artist I'm not too familiar with, Robert Morey, Windmills on Bronze, freestanding sculpture. Each glass panel sits together in a set. All three are separate. Maybe you have a place in mind for this kind of work in your home. Substantial at 27 inches tall and from the Fitzgerald collection as well. This was kind of an interesting piece by Walt Lieberman from '83. It's interesting to see this kind of work being made in this era early on. Very powerful work called Occupational Hazard. 24 inches tall and 18 inches wide, wall mounted. Has a feeling of something that would be created today. Talk about the topics of going on today, but obviously the topics existed back then. I like this work a lot, and it's a very powerful piece, and I think it needs a powerful collection. A large form or medium form to large form Michael Behrens. We've represented the artist for years, and I think we've sold maybe 3. This will be the third one we've sold at auction. Some people have adjusted their collection or have moved, so we take them back and we're able to offer them at a great price. So if you're looking for a Michael Behrens at auction, this might be the piece for you. Michael is heavily inspired by his life scuba diving and exploring the world. He just recently got back from trips across Europe, taking photographs for more inspiration. And he's one of the hardest workers working today, exploring glass and carving. And as a student, and he worked with Peter Bemers for many, many years, probably one of the best. So definitely keep an eye on him. And the other Michael Glancy, this one is actually larger than the previous one at 16 inches wide, and 3-part piece. The piece underneath it is the clear plexi that holds the piece up. It's an important part to have in the piece, and I just love this work. It has a different design and tone than usual square pieces, and it just draws you in with its electroplated and the copper design. Definitely museum quality.
Oh yeah.
Some fun works we have. Some local collectors are offering some work that's for sale at their own private collection. This kind of C-form-esque piece is someone named Gwen Knight. This is kind of work that you'd find probably in craft shows or other fun places that people explore the world. And it's always fun to see what's out there on different levels of people creating. And the second piece being offered is this one from a Norway gallery. I believe this piece was bought at Sofa originally, and it's called Elixir of Life series, and I'm really drawn to it just because you have that feeling of mystery. Maybe this contains the elixir of life. It has that texture to it. It's almost if it was found hidden behind something, an Indiana Jones movie, and I just like the piece a lot. Herb Babcock, a longtime friend of Habitat Galleries, one of the earliest to show. And every now and then we come across a nice treasure from these blown series. These are colorful works. And I think you've had a couple of these in the gallery over the time, Ferd, would you say?
Oh yeah, yeah. This was a series that he worked on in the 70s and discontinued it in the 80s when he started working on his large scale multimedia sculptures. But these were really inspired by surrealism and of Joan Moreau. And yeah, beautiful, beautiful work for the floating imagery. He was really a master of being able to use the glass to be able to see through it and see the images on both sides. So it gave it 3 dimension.
Thank you, Ferd. Ken Ibsen, excuse me,
Ibsen,
another artist from the era of the early 70s. And one of these two pieces, I don't know which one it is, was
that one.
was the largest blown that year and received an award for it, the largest blown object. And we have both pieces from the collection available in this auction, and just goes to show another historic collecting there that rarely come up for bidding at auction. And now this is the time. This one is, yeah, it's 15 by 15. This one's 18 by 16 by 16. Great work. Very
I
fun.
I wanted to represent Kent Ibsen, and he was really not too interested in galleries. He was more interested in doing art fairs. Put it in the context of the time, 1973.
Mhm.
So I went to the Ann Arbor Art Fair, and it was a hot, sweaty day, and it had rained a little briefly earlier. And I said, Ken, this kind of tough way to make a living, isn't it? And he said, yeah, yeah. I said, what if I buy all your pieces? And I said, think about it this way. Not only would you get all that money, but then you'd have everyone come by, and if they're interested in the piece, you can tell them the whole booth is sold. He said, I like this. Let's do it. So I bought the whole collection, and a couple months later, we had a Kent Ibsen exhibition at the gallery, supplemented by some other pieces. But in his day, he was doing just outrageous pieces, not only scale wise, but the way he meticulously handled them.
Great story, Ferd. Like that a lot. Wow, this is an impressive Mark Pizer from the Wisteria series, and apparently there's a piece very, very similar in the private collection of the Corning Museum or public collection of the Corning Museum.
Yeah,
And
this
wonderful. Go ahead, Ferd.
this is seriously one of the great Mark Pizers made during that era, and he made 371, I believe, different pieces, but of this technique, which was dotting glass elements onto a hot surface. A piece like this would take probably 12, sometimes the longest, like 14 hours working on the piece continuously. And of course, the thought came to my mind, how do you go to the bathroom when you're working on a piece like that for so long? He says, when you're working in that kind of conditions, you don't even have to go to the bathroom. You're sweating so much.
Yeah, interesting story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is an amazing piece of his.
another rare piece to have in the auction.
Wisteria, yeah.
A mixed media piece. I've seen these in collections, wall-mounted glass and mixed media by Susan Ahmed. Someone I need to learn more about, obviously, but a substantial work at 45 inches tall and quite colorful.
Mhm.
A wonderful work by our late friend Marvin Lipofsky. Big, substantial work at 13 by 15 by 15. And some people love the work, some people hate the work, but the idea is it's important work. And he was a teacher to so many, and he has lots of different styles and techniques out there. A lot of his pieces, he would go somewhere and start and he'd take it back to his studios and finish. Like this one's called Fratelli Toso. I'm sure he went to somebody's studio to start working on the piece and finish it back at his studio. And the estate now is doing a lot of donation of the work to institutions, so I don't know how many pieces are left in the world. Auction's a great place to get them. Another Kate Ibsen, a small paperweight. Ferd was telling you, a lot of the works were at craft fairs and ended up in this gallery, and this would have been kind of a piece that Ferd probably would have acquired just to get the ball rolling. Colorful and at 4x4x4, a good solid size paperweight. Someone that I don't really know much about, Eric Spectrum. This is a glass panel that has been treated with red glass during the process, and it's mounted in a base. Overall appearance, something quite nice. Something I need to learn more about, though. Julius Wayland. This piece came from a collection here locally. It was the Joanne and David Den collection. I believe this work is wall mounted, but I have to double check so don't hold me to it. Probably very technical at the time. Different blown tubes that have all been layered and layered and layered to create this movement-like object. And just a fun piece by the artist.
He was one of the hottest artists at SOFA for 3 years going. He showed with Litvak, the Israeli art dealer. And everybody wanted his work. I haven't seen much of it lately. I don't know if he's still working, but that's a beautiful example of his work.
A fun piece by our late friend Erwin Eisch. Had a chance to meet him during my career, which is a lot of fun. Always being creative, always being interesting. Good friends with Harvey Littleton. This piece is called Hi Mom. Every piece probably usually had a story of an experience he had in his life that led him to create something. When he stayed at Ferd's house, my childhood home, he hand painted me a picture of hands because I was helping him with his luggage or his suitcases or whatever as a teenager. And this piece must have had some kind of narrative, but it's an overall fun work. It looks kind of like a candle holder, but it might be in some design, but it's very fun. So a rare piece, collaboration by Alex Bernstein and his mom, Kate Bernstein. This is the only collaboration I've ever seen, and came from the Joanne and David Den collection here in Michigan. So it looks probably like a self-portrait, I would assume, and maybe early on that Alex was helping his mom create a sculpture of herself. But it's a very interesting and clear work done from an early Alex Bernstein perspective, which led to what he creates today. So it comes with a black base, and it's priced very well at auction. Getting to the end here, our friend Henry Halem. We still see him every now and then. We have some of his new work in the gallery. This work is an untitled wall sculpture. Black draws you in, some beautiful colors and tones. Probably this is a late 70s, so it looks to me like an 80s design, so it probably was ahead of its time when it was made. And a very fun piece by the artist. Mayor Schaffer, we rarely have these at auction, especially one this big at 31 inches tall. And this is from the Fitzgerald collection as well, mounted on the wall. She's a very important person to the contemporary glass art world, and she's still working today. We've been showing her at SOFA for many, many, many years. And a lot of people are drawn to her work. Sometimes they mix media and copper and steel, but this is a very simple design of a flowing piece of glass, like a waterfall out of the wall. And I like it a lot. And last, we have a very important work by our friend Lachesar Boyajev. I believe he has a show right now in Europe. And we wanted to put a really substantial work in by the artist that was very impressive in 2017. At 32 inches high, this is definitely a museum quality sculpture by Lachesar. And I just love the color and tone to these. Sometimes you see work that has like yellow or oranges or reds, and I own a piece by him that is red, but just something about this color just draws you in because it slowly changes over time as you explore the piece and view the work. So I'm grateful to have it in this auction, and it's our finale piece. So let me stop sharing, and I wanted to show you on our website. Actually, let me get back to our website real quick and show you where the auction's at before you leave me for the rest of your weekend. So on our website, there's a button here that says View Auctions right here. If you click that, it will take you directly to our auction site where you can register and view all the pieces at auction. I would highly advise you register on this site. We have another site called Live Auctioneers we've used for years, but the pricing on this site is much better because the fees are dumped on top of the Live Auctioneer site, on top of the hammer price, on top of everything and the premiums, while this has everything in it. And if you pay by credit card or check, we can always work with you. So that's basically it. So let me stop sharing and thank you guys all for being here today. Hope you enjoyed this. The auction's up. It will be on Friday, the 11th of October. And if you have any questions or want to put silent bids in and save some more money, contact me because you have the lowest premium, which is 18% when you bid by silent bid or phone. That's it. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Ferd, for being here. Thank you, Corey, for being here today. It was a lot of fun to go over all these auctions. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, hit that bell, all that stuff. We'd love to bring you into our glass art world. Thank you again for being here, and we'll talk to you real soon.